Hello and welcome to the Retro Rejects. On this week's show, we're going to be discussing the Clerks trilogy. Clerks. Yes. I think it's, for me, anyway, it's pretty much the perfect trilogy.
Even more so than like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, definitely, without a shadow. Maybe Lord of the Rings might.
Although the last Lord of the Rings, though, that went on for like 15 hours too long.
Yeah, it was still good though.
Yeah.
But, say when you think of... see, the thing is, I suppose we're caught up in the old kind of thinking about trilogies, whereas like the trilogies weren't really a thing. Anyway, I suppose Star Wars was probably one of the first trilogies, was it? Other than maybe Smokey and the Bandit. Something like that.
Are coming out of the
movies. Or Friday the 3rd. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street.
But I suppose Friday, but they weren't trilogies because there was like a load of them in it.
Yeah, but there's kind of Clerks that's kind of expanded a little bit to include Jane, Silent Bob.
Well, that's the whole thing. But there's the Clerks trilogy.
Okay, right. Yeah. Let's talk about the Clerks trilogy then.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll talk about everything in it, but I'm just on about, say, kind of beforehand, it was like, say, people would have considered maybe the Indiana Jones trilogy as being...
that's not a trilogy anymore, though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. In the 80s, we're in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Even though I know the Clerks movies were done after the 80s and 90s. Clerks' first one was done in the 90s. I have absolutely nothing in front of us, so I'm not going to have any dates or anything like that, right? I think big Kevin Smith fan anyway.
This is so big you don't know the dates of the releases of his films.
Yeah, well, we're concentrating on dates. But, so I just thought, right, we don't need anything in front of us when we're talking about this. We've been fucking discussing the man and
he's watching all of his films
since whatever year.
Teenagerhood.
Yeah. But no, I think as far as a lot of trilogies dip or fall down, even like, say, the Dark Knight trilogy. I think first one, great movie. Second one, great movie. Third one. You had Superman.
Yes.
Superman, first one, great. Second one, even better. Third one, people were like, what the fuck? Especially with evil Superman flicking peanuts. Do you remember that? When he went evil, then he was like, they showed he was evil because he went into a bar and he was flicking peanuts, breaking glasses, getting drunk. They're very limited and they're kind of like, you could have him fucking burning people to death, fucking destroying cities, doing an Omni-Man on it, but it's like, no, you just...
flicking peanuts.
Yeah, he gets hammered. And then 4 was just like, ooh. But a lot of people, when they think of trilogies, I think when they're talking about, say, classic trilogies, they go to, like, The Godfather and they go, the third one killed it.
Yeah.
Or Jurassic Park. Although Jurassic Park, I thought the first one even was like, meh. The second one was terrible and the third one was just atrocious.
Lovely. So you're just basically going, all other trilogies suck in comparison to the Clerks trilogy.
Do. I think it's hard to get a good trilogy.
Yeah.
Whereas I think...
2 out of 3 ain't bad, according to Meatloaf.
But as well, even with fucking, like, say, Star Wars, with the original trilogy of it, it's... First movie, I'm going to be a bit controversial with this and say, it's not great. It was great for the time. I think I'd struggle, but maybe it's just because we've seen it so many times.
And maybe because you're an adult now as well, and it is actually technically designed for kids.
Yeah, but it's not. It's very hard to watch A New Hope again, I think. And The Empire Strikes Back, very good. Return of the Jedi used to be one of my favourites, but it's still really kind of like a similar story. Like, they're just obsessed with Death Stars. It should be like called the Death Star fucking franchise, really, more so than that. Was there, there was even in the original, I think there was some kind of, they showed like fucking what's-his face's, Grandmaster Poopy Pants' fucking kind of thing where he was like, oh look, he's got plans for a Death Star. An operational Death Star. But they always say, but I think the Clerks thing, it follows a perfect
trajectory.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
Now, I would like to have seen it finishing on a happier fucking note.
Yeah.
When I remember seeing it and kind of going,
Oh my god.
fuck.
Spoilers for anyone.
Yeah, this is
listening in.
spoilers,
Yeah.
but I take it if you're listening to a podcast about movies anyway, you've seen it already. But
But then again, I mean, it's probably the appropriate way to end it, because it's like, that's life. You know, life can be shitty and
well,
things
they're
happen.
Kevin Smith's characters. It's based on Kevin Smith's life and stuff, and all these friends' lives, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, I'm never really a fan of this kind of thing where kind of creator should be beholden to the audience.
Yeah, fan service or anything like that.
Would it? Whereas, of course it would have. But then if they had to finish it all soccer, people would be like, yeah, I can't believe they finished that.
I know, yeah, that's an unnaturally happy end.
But it really was, and especially because I don't probably have talked about it on the show. I fucking go on about it enough anyway in real life. I had a fucking Widowmaker heart attack about a year and a half ago, like Kevin Smith. Unlike Kevin Smith, I didn't get to the hospital on time, and I fucking died just on the way in the door.
And had to be seriously resuscitated and operated.
And it fucked me up like physically for the rest of my life. But it's the whole thing with it. When looking at Clerks, it was just like, oh,
it's like watching yourself on screen kind of a thing, really, isn't it? And I think that's probably actually what Clerks is in general. It's like there's a character in Clerks that most people go, Jesus, that was me when I was younger, or that's I know those people.
Our generation as well, because say when you had the indie boom of movies in the 90s. You had like Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Richard Linklater, I think. But you had all these guys that were coming out of movie school, and I think everyone had it in there. Actually, I don't know if Tarantino went to movie. I don't think he did. I think he was. It was just this thing where it's a great documentary if people have ever seen it. Overnight, Troy Duffy's story. He's the guy who directed the Boondock Saints, and I think that captures that era really, really well. Where you had a load of regular people. All of a sudden, it was like the doors seemed to be open into Hollywood, for where it was like Tarantino was. Video store clerk, wrote scripts, got his way to even start making movies on his own back, funded himself. Kevin Smith, I think is like the true definition of a lot of these indie kind of thing at the time.
Entirely self-funded, like via credit cards and selling his own comic book collection off and all of that.
It was the same with Sam Raimi, I think, too, sort of where they got funded by dentists and things, you know? But it's just... It was like that thing. It was everyone of a certain age at that stage in the 90s. All of a sudden, it was like, my God, maybe it could be us. I think a lot of people our age and a little bit older would have wrote movie scripts. You had in your head, it could be like, I remember writing a movie script and submitting it to like agents and things. But like we wouldn't have been on our own. We were all glued to it, obviously. But it just seemed like, well, this is something that can happen, and it does happen. Because like the Tarantino did well, as far as we knew, these people they didn't have. Kevin Smith definitely didn't have a fucking into Hollywood. So like, I mean, there's a bit of luck involved with it, obviously, but as well, like there's talent and determination involved.
And that's what I mean. He basically just went and did his own stuff anyway. He raised his own funds. That's I suppose the difference as well. Like that would have been sort of slightly out of our grasp, really. I suppose. Yeah. But some people just do that. They go off self-funded film, and suddenly it's like, actually, that film is pretty good, and it gets the attention then of the actual mainstream media.
Well, there was
that's how they opened the doors.
Yeah, but there was a lot of... I think it was with our generation as well, that there was a lot of people... Well, in our part of the world, like obviously not fucking everywhere in the world, but like we grew up with people that were always part of the arts in one way or another, where they were doing plays, and I think that was the thing with Kevin Smith and Tarantino as well, that you had in the 80s... a lot of the bigger kind of blockbuster movies, I suppose, the script was nearly secondary. It was just like action piece after action piece. Nothing wrong with that. Love action movies. But then these guys seem to bring like the play, or a play. It was like scripted like a play, where there was a lot of dialogue in it. And sure, like Tarantino has been compared to Shakespeare for wasn't there? With it, so you had all that going on. And I think that's why people, and definitely I know why I like Kevin Smith so much, it is because you nearly feel like, it's one of us. It's of the same generation, and he's after making it, but it's talking about stuff that he's interested in. We were like, I think it was the first time I saw a comic or a film where they were like adults nearly talking about comics and
about
certain
comics
movies.
or Star Wars as well. Sure.
Yeah. And it fucking blew my mind where it was just like, oh my god, like
these people are like us. Oh my god.
Because normally if they had stuff like that in the movie, you'd be like, oh, that nerd. Poindexter, like, getting sand kicked in their eyes by Arnold Schwarzenegger on the beach.
Why is Arnold Schwarzenegger so against comic book nerds?
I don't know. McBain.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah.
The nuclear. What was it?
Nuclear.
What was it? Nuclear Man?
Atom Man? No.
No, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But the goggles, they do not work.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, like, would you have been a Kevin Smith fan? Like, prior to
you fucking insisting upon it. I would have watched Clerks, and it would have been a thing that I would have been like, yeah, I know these people hanging around video stores. I was one of those people, hanging around video stores, and with the dead end job where you're kind of like, oh, I'm not even supposed to be here.
And you went to movie making school.
Oh, I know, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, maybe I'm Kevin Smith, but no, not successful, obviously.
you did work on like. I suppose like small movie
local media and all that kind of stuff as well, but not Hollywood or anything like that. Yeah, but no, that's having seen it, it's so relatable, and the stuff they're talking about, like, do you know what I mean? It just sounds like the sort of the putting down the time conversations you have, where you kind of you wax between the sort of the poetic and the deep, and the the lyrical and the profound and the philosophical, and then you've got like some customer coming in like giving out about milk expiry date or something like that. So it's just a very very real depiction, I suppose, of a lot of people's lives at that stage, of a particular generation, as you said.
I think it fits in with the whole thing with Seinfeld as well, with the show about nothing, where it's, I think something happened in the 90s where people wanted to express themselves, I think, more so than, that they wanted the same as every generation, I suppose. They want to try and get their, whereas music was always a thing, but like filmmaking wasn't open.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was out of everyone's reach until the technology came to such a level that you could actually kind of shoot your own film at home and have it be passable and have it actually be screened in a cinema quality. So I suppose technology kind of democratized that a little bit, I suppose, forever, and gave people access that where you're going to get like a Hollywood, film camera or something like that, if you're just like someone from in some rural town somewhere. And all of a sudden you can actually do it on like high quality Betamax or, that kind of stuff and get away with it.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, it's just, and I think Kevin Smith was well ahead of the game with it, obviously, because it would have been like the early 90s, I suppose, with Clerks.
Yeah.
I remember, I think the first, like, before I saw Mallrats before I saw Clerks.
Right.
And I remember seeing it, was just like, what the fuck is it? And like Mallrats, for people who aren't familiar with it, it was like his second movie, and it was like more of a bit budget, and Clerks was like critically fucking acclaimed, and people were like, oh my god, guy is we were just looking at a documentary about him the other night, and he was kind of recounted it, and people that were there recounting it, saying it was like all these people that were like, say, New York film critics and all these people, it was nearly like they were like, we were after letting you into our thing,
the inner circle.
Yeah. And they didn't really seem to get what Kevin Smith was about. Whereas I think something like Mallrats and Clerks 2, I think, is probably one of his best films. Or I really like, actually, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I think that's fucking brilliant. And Chase Namey is good as well. But like, I don't think they got that was his sense of humor. And then when Mallrats came out, they were like, what the fuck is this shit? And because of the bad from those people that obviously didn't want to see it, and they probably felt like they were cheated or something, that they were probably expecting, I don't know what they were expecting, that they kind of killed that movie, and a lot of people didn't get to see it. I got to see it, I think it was on Channel 4, came across it by
terrestrial
accident.
TV, basically.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my god, this is the great, and then like, it was like fucking just trying to find it, and it was really, really, really hard to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially at that stage, like in the mid-90s. And then came Clerks and stuff, and it was... But even from that, like with the whole thing with Clerks, he was doing that whole thing as well, where it's like, you write what you know about.
Yeah.
And he had all these friends in it, and this is like something that I think sold Kevin Smith, and he was said, because he brings it up in a lot of these movies where it's where I think he started off with this kind of idea where it's like it's great to make movies with your friends and enjoy it, but then got caught up in the Hollywood and the career thing, and then kind of came back to it. I think with Clerks 2, where it was that thing of nearly where Dante and Randall kind of accept that it's like there's nothing wrong with being happy and working, doing what you're doing. If what you shouldn't be trying to
be something you're not. I suppose.
Or kind of like on other people's ideas and what you should be like. Whereas they're happy to be clerks in that. They get to that point with them happy to stay in their hometown. Which I think there is something with Kevin Smith where he went over to, after getting big, where he ended up moving to LA and all that. And I think there's always, like, he had a breakdown recently. And it's like, for people who don't know, that there is a bigger whole kind of thing around Kevin Smith as well, where it's like all the friends that helped him make Clerks, this is what I was trying to get at. He kind of looked after all them. So
they all kind of came along together.
On the back of Clerks, well, I think it was more so with the money that they made off Mallrats, he bought a comic book store and he got his friends to run it, basically.
And started the whole podcast empire then as well, Smodcast.
And Smodcast, but I think before Smodcast, Tell Him Steve Dave was going, which is like Brian Wolf Flanagan and Brian Quinn, who were good friends of Kevin Smith. Like, basically Randall in Clerks is based on Brian Johnson. And then they were all in Comic Book Men. Wolf Flanagan is in it as about fucking 50 million people, and he's the guy with the eggs. And he's buying cigarettes. And they've always been, and Walt ended up managing
the comic book store. And of course then that itself turned into a TV series.
Comic Book Men, which I loved. I probably looked at that a million times, but it's this whole thing that they seem to, because they're essentially sharing their lives with people through the podcast, through the TV shows and all that. And they're normal people. They're not celebrities. They are in a way celebrities, but they're not like, J-Lo or fucking Ben Affleck.
No, they're very relatable, and I think they stay genuine and fairly true to their roots as well. They're authentic, I suppose, is probably the word you want to use. Because they'll never kind of give up the I'm a fan of comics, and I do enjoy hockey, and that's it, and I'm happy living in New Jersey, and why would I want to live anywhere else, kind of a thing. Which is, it's refreshing to see. It's not always this striving to be out and hustle and influence on Instagram and all that kind of stuff nowadays.
Well, that's it, and they're older guys, but it's, I suppose, probably people feel the same way about maybe someone like that grew up with Miley Cyrus or something like that, where it's you're after watching these people through their careers, but like the whole thing, because I Tell Them Steve Dave and Kevin Smith with Smodcast and through his movies, you're kind of after, you feel like you're after being a part of their lives too. You know a lot more about their lives than, say, we would, like, I don't know what the fuck Harrison Ford is up there, or what George Lucas.
That's true. You've been along for the ride with them at every step, like you see what they're doing in their day-to-day lives.
And especially with something like Tell Them Steve Dave, where they are very open about what they're doing on a weekly basis.
They do lift the veil quite a lot, because the Clerks trilogy, there's been documentaries on the making of. Kevin Smith has had numbers, like, an evening with Kevin Smith where he talks about that kind of stuff. Even with the Comic Book Men, the show, they go behind the scenes of that. They have the podcast of that, and they tell you like what was going on.
Patreon,
exactly. So it's they kind of, there's no mystery or anything like that. They want to keep this whole celebrity mystique. It's like come in and we'll chat about this, and we'll give you the real fucking score and all of this, which is, it's refreshing to see. Like, it's not this polished sort of Hollywood machine.
And Tell Him Steve Dave is a very successful podcast now, and they make their own TV shows as well, which they put up on Patreon, and they're very good. They're really, really talented group of people that I suppose have a need. Well, I can't remember, but they make a living from it anyway, which is the thing. Like, Walt no longer works, and then there was all like this thing that people fell out with Kevin Smith, and no one really knows what went on there. Kevin Smith has come out over the last while saying that weed had an impact on his life, and he had PTSD after having the heart attack, and he might have been, he regrets some of the things that he does. Whatever they did, they're entitled to have a bit of fucking privacy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Over stuff. But it's just good to, I think, like, the last couple of years, he's like, I think you have Mallrats. Chasing Amy was a critically acclaimed film as well. I don't think you really like Chasing Amy at all.
For some reason, just always rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know, I never just never enjoyed it. I don't know why. But yeah, anyway, there's no point me saying too much about that, because it's just like I keep rolling my eyes every time you put it on, and then I don't watch it, and then I forget why I don't like it in the first place.
Quite like that because of the whole comic book artist things, where it's like, oh my god, they have the, where it's, that was something that I can't remember being done either, where it was just going into that world. As well, and it's like, oh my god, it's up on the big screen. I don't really give a shit about the relationship story, which is like the main story.
Thrust, like,
But, and as well, Jason Lee, I think, who came in Mallrats, he's a fucking amazing actor, a very, very funny guy.
Yeah,
who went on to have a massive career.
His own career as well.
And like Ben Affleck, obviously, he was in Mallrats as well. Went on, had a massive career. But like after Chasing Amy, then there was Dogma, which did well, and then I think he kind of he tried to do movies that other people would have wanted, like Jersey Girl, which tanked, which is actually a good movie.
It's great, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just maybe a bit more sentimental, I suppose, than you're used to seeing from Kevin Smith.
Yeah, and then Cop Out, which never must look at it, but that I think kind of finished him off with Hollywood. And then he did Clerks 2, which I love Clerks 2. Clerks 1, black and white film, very, very super independent. Just about one day, and I suppose Clerks 2 is about one day,
pretty
but
much
it's
one day,
picking up about 10, 15 years later.
Yeah, with the characters.
The guys are working in like movies.
A fast food.
And at this stage, I think he's after establishing and building his universe, the extended universe.
The universe,
where you have all the characters are all interlinked and kind of like a big fan base. Anyway. And sure, there was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Was it Strike Back? I can't remember as well. Along the way with that, but it was all these characters interlinked, and then you're back into like the original world, I suppose, where you're back in that part in Jersey. Whereas I think Kevin Smith always said he wanted to build like this John Hughes universe where it's all interconnected, but he did it so much better than John Hughes. I think with John Hughes, you just knew of, there was like, it was just set in the same place, but like
you feel like you're actually going to, like, say, a hometown, I suppose. It feels like you're going back home and catching up with all these characters you just haven't been talking to in a while.
It feels so real, and as well because they popped up in different movies along the way, that there was that thing. And like, I mean, you got to see Jay and Silent Bob go through all their different adventures, and as well as they were growing up and maturing as people, they were kind of maturing as characters in it. And then it's nice with Clerks 2 that it gets to that point where it goes from 20-somethings to people in their early 30s that are kind of like, what
really
the fuck are we doing?
Life, what is it all about,
And I think that came out probably when we would have been maybe in our late 20s, I suppose, maybe early 30s.
So I was kind of tracking with our lives as well. So you are hitting that stage where you're kind of like, oh my god, what have I done with my life and where am I going, and things haven't worked out as I thought they would, kind of thing. And
I think there's that nice thing in it where it is kind of like, that shit don't matter. It's just fucking...
And it is, and it's looking around and appreciating what you actually do have. You have good friends, or, sort of a good relationship, or you just enjoy what you're doing. You have time to, have your life. Work isn't everything, essentially. But they actually, again, spoilers and all the rest, they did find that actually we're happiest in that line of work by the fucking quickie stop and actually go in and just run it for ourselves and be our own boss. I think that was a lot of the message as well, was like, there's no point having someone else being your boss.
No, I'd say
be your own boss.
He was going to, with that ending, I think there was that feeling that it was like, this is it. I don't think they were ever going to do Clerks 3 with it, and it felt like a final kind of where everyone was like, oh, please do a Clerks 3. But Clerks 2 as well, it's the thing that Kevin Smith does so well. He is quite funny, like, I mean, like as a person, an individual himself, with his talks and spoken word stuff, he's fucking immensely funny. I remember the first time that we saw like an evening with Kevin Smith, it was like,
he's so funny. Yeah, he's really funny, just like off the cuff, and
and it was like a double DVD, or maybe the second one, but it was just these really funny stories, and he was very open and very personable. And it was, you
didn't kind of expect it, really, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose he opened the door as well for people to do it, because there wasn't really, like, I mean, I'm sure there was talks going on, like, movie things, but to go out on tour, as he created the Kevin Smith character as well. He sold himself. It was more than just like, someone doing movies, like Spielberg isn't going around.
He essentially had his sort of his costume, I suppose, the sort of the denim jorts, and the sort of the hockey t-shirt and the beer, he just Yeah, it was a Kevin Smith character, I suppose. So, like, if he changed his clothes, he wouldn't be Kevin Smith anymore, kind of a thing,
And I suppose that was one of the weird things. After he had the heart attack as well, actually, when he lost all the weight, it was.
Yeah,
I remember
like,
first, like, ooh.
Yeah, you're kind of like, oh my God, what happened, Kevin Smith?
Yeah.
And in reality, he was just being healthy and, like, looking after his ticker.
But I suppose one of the things I was going to say with Clerks 2, it's the same as, he's genuinely funny, like really, really funny. Clerks 2, I think, is one of the funnier. Clerks 1 is funny, but I think it's probably, if younger people wouldn't get a lot of it.
Yeah, even though I don't think he had his full confidence to just go balls out with, sort of the gags and the setups. Like, I mean, there's the Donkey Show. Do you know what I mean? And that's, sort of, depending on how, if you came at it not knowing Kevin Smith or not knowing like that was meant to be a farce or comedy, you would be like, this is outrageous, that's horrible, a donkey and a human were. But it's like, it's there for comedy effect and like just to be a little bit shocking and hilarious,
But I think where sometimes what works really well is when you bring in, well, it can kill things as well, when you bring in another character into the world. So when they brought Elias into it, that could have easily been like, it's a sidekick that they're bringing into it, but and he's not really like this where they do in films where you have nearly a blank person where it's like coming into that world and explain, like with Hellboy where they had the agent coming into it, and this, it was like Elias was in, but he just fitted in really because he's just like he's fucked up in a different way, and Becky thing as well for Dante, where it was that that and it was Kevin Smith's wife was in this as well, which I didn't realise she was a Hollywood or a reporter when they met stuff. I don't know, I never really,
how come I knew that and you didn't?
I don't know, I just never really I don't know. I'm not like a stalker or anything.
Neither am I. It's just that story has been told numerous times by both of them.
It probably just goes in one ear and out the other ear.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't listen.
But shut up. I don't pay you to talk. But it's 2, I think, is like the perfect, and it would have been a great send off for us. But like what you were saying with the Donkey Show as well, it's like the guy with, it's very few filmmakers I think can take a scene of bestiality going on and
turn it into a touch and heartfelt moment.
And make it funny and not like horrendous. It's like you don't see anything.
It's just implied.
But it's just a whole kind of twist that it's like, who's the stud, and your man is, I'm the stud. But he's just such a weird character as well with the
that's the thing as well, that they actually let him be a character in his own right, that he wasn't just like, okay, here's the weirdo in the PVC outfit or whatever, and but it was like he was given his own little bit of screen time as well, and his own quirky weird character as well.
But that's, I think, what he does so well with stuff. It's like that Seinfeld thing where you have, like in Seinfeld, what really made Seinfeld, it's like with a lot of comic books, what makes Spider-Man and Batman is the villains. Not necessarily, like, I mean, if you just do a comic book about Batman sitting around the house with Alfred, you'd be bored sensitive. He's a nut job, but he's not like a fun nut job like the Joker. He's just like a depressed fucking, he never got over his parents dying, and it's like, you're fucking in your 30s, get over it, man. You're whereas like Peter Parker is quite likeable, but I imagine if you spent a lot of time with him as Peter Parker, you'd be just like, oh my
too
god,
chipper, exactly. Just simmer down, buddy.
But so it's the villains.
You need to have the balance.
So it's all those side characters make the Kevin Smith, and they're good to have. Even like when you have like the guy that comes in when we're talking about the Lord of the Rings, that scene is just fucking. It's hilarious.
It is, and there's no reason for the scene as such, only to establish these the interested people, and these are the kind of weirdos that come into the shop. And the hilarious thing as well, I suppose, is you see it on Comic Book Men a lot, where people come in and you just like they're having a chat, and then all of a sudden this customer just joins in, and they're like far weirder than anybody else there, or they're hysterically funny or something.
And like, I mean, the whole thing, obviously, like Comic Book Men, it's a reality show, and it's like that people were picked to come in and stuff, but some people weren't.
They just showed up and turned out to be hilarious enough to keep in.
But when you go for, I think between Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, Kevin Smith's life took a very kind of weird kind of he ended up, I think Clerks 2 really it nearly foreshadowed where he'd go in life where maybe he made Cop Out after that, but he basically came out of the Hollywood system. He made Zack and Miri Makes a Porno, which I'm not really a big fan of, I have to say. I just don't really like that film.
No, now again, it's hilarious in its own right and all the rest, but again, I wouldn't be a huge fan of that.
It doesn't feel like a Kevin Smith film to me. Now, when they were talking about it in the documentary as well, they were saying, well, he kind of went through a phase where it was like Judd Apatow was doing well, and everyone kind of felt, well, look, he's doing well because he's kind of after ripping you off.
Yeah, exactly. Do these sort of slightly smutty kind of gags and stuff. Yeah.
So he kind of went, well, I'm going to make a Judd Apatow film, and even had Seth Rogen.
Apatow, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, it didn't feel like a Kevin Smith movie to me. There was elements to it, but it's just, I don't know. And then he ended up going off doing podcasts for a long time and doing his own thing. And from the podcast... And then
Tusk as well.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. From the podcast, he ended at Red State. They decided that, right, fuck the whole Hollywood system. Let's do our own thing. So they were making their own films, financed by themselves, and they distributed themselves. They went on tour across America with it and doing shows as well, and it worked out really well. Red State is actually a really good movie. Let's go back and look at that as well. Tusk, I don't know, I could take it or leave it now.
It wasn't a little bit bizarre.
And then he did Yoga Hosers, which is a film that he wanted to do with his daughter, which it's like we haven't looked at that. It's not aimed at.
Yeah, it's aimed at a young.
Also, I don't think we'd enjoy it. But like, I mean, don't mean that. But like, I think he got a bit of stick for that. But he just did his own fucking thing.
Why wouldn't you? If you're in that position, your daughter is like interested. You know, she's an actress in her own right and all the rest. If you're in that position, why wouldn't you do a film with your daughter? You know, there's plenty of people, as they get older, they start acting in kids' films because they want to have films their kids can watch and all the rest. I mean, how great to be able to work with your kid and, you know, do a film with her.
Well, you see, it's like a lot of it's one of the things I admire about Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon fucking Zombie, that like she doesn't act in other films. Like, I mean, I don't know whether she's interested in being in other films or what, but she can act regardless of what people say. Like, I mean, fucking she can, you know, but they quite obviously just want to spend time with each other, which, what's wrong with that?
Exactly, they're making films together, why not?
Yeah, and fucking, like, I mean, it was really bizarre. Mila Jovovich, I think, is one of the stranger ones that if you only really know her from Resident Evil, you might realise that she was like she was Oscar nominated and shit. Like, Mila Jovovich was a very serious actress before
all the martial arts kind of stuff,
and it was, she married Paul Anderson and they decided, let's just fucking make these movies. So she's only really been in movies that he's made, and the two of them, just because the way to look at it is we can spend time with the family on set and do things.
Do what we want
There's
to do.
nothing wrong with it, and they're fucking successful with it. It's not like,
fuck that. There's fucking millions of people would be very jealous of that. I'd be very jealous of that.
And Kate Beckinsale was the same. So Kate Beckinsale was someone who was she was another kind of person that was nominated for Oscars, very serious kind of thing, more like fucking Downton Abbey stuff. And then
all of a sudden,
she married the guy that was doing Underworld and just did a bunch of Underworld movies, you know, where people were like, what the fuck is that? You know? But like, what's nothing wrong with it? Yeah.
It's putting your own life before work as well. And if you can find a way to marry the two, how bad?
Yeah. So Kevin Smith, I think he made a great, and then he did Comic Book Men as well, which brought everyone back, and then he did the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I think is fucking fantastic. It's very meta, and it brings everything together.
References back to everything.
Yeah, and it brings everyone together as well, you know, and I think probably because of that, it kind of led up to Clerks Street. Well, he had the heart attack after that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, right, I
want to address this kind of a thing.
Characters again, and it goes into him having the heart attack. Randall has the heart attack and decides to make a move, which is basically Clerks who decides to make. So it's all very meta. And like it's sort of like poor Dante in it. It is really the whole thing where it's like life can kick you in the teeth. Where with Becky, he was with her at the end, and and it's like she died in a fucking car crash, and she was pregnant at the time, and it's just like
he had the life he wanted, and it just got all taken away from him through no fault of his own or her own or anything like that, and he's just back to being miserable and single and working in the store.
But he's like, it's a good depiction because he's not like miserable the whole time with it, and then when he like fuck, he can act.
Waves,
he can. Brian O'Halloran can really, really act when you see him with
Yeah, you'd nearly be
The guy
crying
should get-
yourself, like
yeah.
watching him, go through him and his breakdowns and crying about missing her and stuff. But then he's back to Dante with the wisecracking and the rolling at the eyes at Randall and all the rest. So it is, like you said, it's more realistic because people, you have your waves where everything just gets on top of you and you're like, fuck the world, and then you're okay, and you just go, oh, fuck it, just get on with things. What else can you do?
And Elias came back for it. And I don't think he really started anything else over, and they got him back.
He's hysterical.
He's fucking brilliant in it. He's really, really, really good. But it's a nice continuation with it, and it's like them back in the store, and
it's nice to see, as I said, Jay and Silent Bob kind of develop as well.
Yeah. Where
become like legitimate businessmen.
Yeah, when they had their weed store, because obviously there's no VHS store isn't going to be open anymore. But it's have all the, and then even the whole kind of throwback to Clerks, where they're doing, so they get back a lot of people that were in the original Clerks as well. So it's nice to see them all coming back.
It is, and it's kind of, I suppose, we're at the age as well where we are kind of almost the same age of all these characters, and it's a little bit emotional, I suppose, seeing people like that would have been in their 20s and they're coming back and they've got wrinkles and grey hair and looking so old. And you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm old too. Oh God.
Yeah. Or there is fucking telling me about it. But at the end, when you kind of think, oh, he's going to pull through because they have they're falling out and then they make up. It's that nearly Disney thing, I suppose.
You're angling for the schmaltzy happy ending, and then then
he dies, and you're just like,
but and then again, it's the ending is, it's kind of it's a bit, it's brutal, but it's nice in a way where it kind of it ends up in the store and like Randall is still there serving, and Jay and Silent Bob are still there doing their thing, and Elias is there, and
life goes on. But
that's it, people have to go on.
With Dante, he goes to heaven, like he's with Becky again at the end of it.
So he does kind of get his happy ending after all,
But oh my God, every time we look
happy
at
ever after, happy ending is very
I suppose
different.
only the second time that we looked at the guy, I remember after the first, I was like, God, like I was tearing up like the
I think it
first
was
time,
too close to your heart attack when you watched it the first time. It was a little very emotional.
Then like with even looking at it the second time, even thinking about it now, I'm getting kind of like emotional. But not necessarily, not about myself, like not that fucking ego fucking centric, but it's just with the characters, because it's like, my God, these characters, they've been with you for what, fucking 30 years, and then it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But at the same point, it's like, it's not that, oh, I can't believe he killed him, but it's
life cycle, unfortunately. There are these, and like even in our own lives, there are people that they're dead and they're gone, and it's like it's fucking tragic and all the rest, but it's just part of the human experience, Well,
this is the thing, I think, where Kevin Smith does things so well. Like I know people shit all over the man and stuff, and some of it's probably justified, and I'm not going to be defending everything that he's on, but with his thing as well of He-Man. I enjoyed that. I loved it, and my mother was just after dying at the time, and that actually helped me get through the initial stages of grief. I can't remember how. Now looking back,
we basically just sat down and watched the whole thing.
We did, but there was elements where it was about grief, I think, in it. I can't remember it but I remember at the time going, oh my God, that really really helped me. I think it kind of brought me back to that time as well when I was a child. So it's like very few directors can
touch people in that kind of dramatic fashion, I suppose.
Now people go on where a lot of the criticism that used to be aimed at Kevin Smith was like, oh, he can't direct everything, it's just from the one kind of thing. I was like, you're missing the point of movies. Movies should have an emotional impact on you. They're not going to have an impact on everyone. It's the same as any art. You have to find something in it. Sometimes you look at it and kind of but people used to be, oh well, he's not Martin Scorsese, and it's like, good.
Leave Martin Scorsese be Martin Scorsese, leave Kevin Smith be Kevin Smith.
Martin Scorsese is a great technician. He tells other people's stories. Kevin Smith's power is he tells his stories.
Yeah, that's true.
With it that resonate with people and have that emotional connection to it, which is fantastic. It's great. It's not Star Wars has that as well for some people. Everyone's going to find stuff.
But I know some people, their favourite artist, musical artist, something like that. Like you look at a Taylor Swift fan, oh my God, she speaks to me, and it's like for me, I'm just like meh. But if it does it for people, it does it for people.
we went, I think, after going through, same as everyone, you get a bit older, and like, I mean, there's still a bit where you kind of go, I don't get what fucking young people are, it's shit, oh, things were better in the 90s, why can't everyone be Rob Zombie? But it's, like, there was like friends of ours, their kid is big into Taylor Swift, and after she was talking, we were kind of like, there has to be some kind of thing. So we went off and we looked at a documentary about her, and it was kind of like, she seems like a nice enough human being and stuff. And tried listening to her music, and I was just like, oh, I can't. I just can't. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, you can respect her for what she does or whatever, but like, not for us.
Yeah. But, you know, it's quite obviously she's after making a big connection. But I think with her as well, it's her story as well that people buy into, because you buy into the person.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
it's the same with Kevin Smith then. Yeah, it's like people buy into him and his universe and his friends. Like, you know, it's...
Well, that was when he had the heart attack. There was an awful lot of people who were really like, oh my God, no. You know, and I think himself, he was saying, what was it? I can't remember what the film he was at. He was like, oh, I can't let that be the fucking last. Yoga Hosers was like last film.
That's right, yeah.
And he was like, I can't have that as kind of like
my last film. I have to do something else.
But it's that all those people, they do feel, well, to me, they feel like they're part of kind of a thing. And it's one of the things, anyone that's in their 40s or even in their 30s, you know, you have your friends when you're a teenager, and some of them will be people from when you were like fucking really young. Then you move on after that, you'll have your college friends or whatever, work friends that you meet then. But you drift away from people a lot in your 30s. It's very, very rare for people to kind of like have friends that they would have made with people. You might have one or two.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, you're going to be going off doing your own fucking thing.
People
and you
having
don't see,
kids.
it's just life
exactly.
happens,
Moving away, whatever.
Yeah, time goes quicker and you want to do your own thing. You get caught up, you have different hobbies and shit. So for all of those people to have met and known each other from when they were teenagers and still be friends, true, I'd imagine a lot of, like, say, Hollywood
a lot
shit
of bullshit, exactly, ups and downs of careers and money and everything,
and like, I mean, I don't mean bullshit from them, but like influence bullshit, like for Kevin Smith never fucking be a coke addict, and you know, like, a lot of people get destroyed by these systems, and he seems like a nice guy. He seems like a good guy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, his kid seems to have grown up like super likeable girl, nice boy, you know.
She does,
that's it, and still madly in love with the wife, and the wife is madly in love with him. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah, and it's the weird thing with his daughter as well, because from when she was born, he called her Harley Quinn, and at the time it was like, oh my God, he called her after like a fucking Batman character, but a Batman character that was only in the cartoon, you know, like Harley Quinn is massive now, but at the time,
no.
So as well, it's the whole thing with Kevin Smith, he wrote for comics as well, and like, I mean, he's Batman, after showrunner on Supergirl, I think. And so he did like a couple of Batman things. Walt Flanagan, the guy that was the manager who does Sam Steve Dave, he did a couple of comics with him as well. I think it was The Winding Gyre, and he might have done the Guardian Angel, Daredevil one. But it's when Ben Affleck did Daredevil, they were all thrilled as well, because it was like, oh my God, you're fucking ours, and then exactly. He did Batman as well, so because Affleck was a big comic book fan as well. What was I fucking saying?
I don't know, you were saying it's nice
just
how they all
totally rambling,
hung out together like throughout their life.
Yeah, it is, but you know, but how much of it, I think a nice guy and a decent human being Kevin Smith is. A lot of people came out about Harvey Weinstein at the time. They were like, oh God, I never knew, and oh, this is disgusting and stuff. But they, like, I mean, I suppose, what do you do about it? Kevin Smith came out and he said, look, no fucking idea this shit was going on. Everyone knew that he was like a philanderer was a thing, and that he cheated on his
wife. They didn't know what, the extent of what was going on.
So Kevin Smith did any of the proceeds going forward from movies that were made under the Miramax thing is being donated to women's charity.
It's women in film or women in acting.
But as well, he also had I think it's around the Wayne Foundation, which was about people trafficking, like, you know, not people trafficking, but
to help people.
With it, because he always had a thing about Batman, and it's really funny. I think it comes up in one of the Clerks where it's like, oh my God, like that time that we went to college and we thought that we could be Batman.
Yeah, we were taking criminology.
Yeah, him and Brian Johnson did that. They thought, we could be like Batman, and we could, and like we'd take criminology and we'd go, we'd be great detectives and stuff. So, you know, a lot of these things There's fucking, but like, I mean, he wants to help people. I think it's with a lot of these people. You have sometimes you can just with artists, like say we like black metal. Well, I like black metal and some of the heavy metal. It's people hate humanity, and that's part of it where you kind of go, yes, I fucking hate people at times too as well. With Kevin Smith, you kind of get a feeling that he loves people. He loves his friends.
He's genuinely interested in people,
and he loves his fans. With stuff, and I don't think you can't put that on for fucking
no, you can't be that
decades.
favour false. I'd wear on you to eventually snap.
Oh yeah, you can imagine if it was us, like
I know,
fucking
like, you get away from
after
me.
a day. Like, fucking don't touch me.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But for all of those reasons, that's why I think Clerks is the perfect trilogy. I think it has the perfect story arc, and it really does. It's capturing and they're not like long films, but somehow it captures the essence of that time and people's lives in an hour and a half. It's very hard to do. Like nowadays, everyone's like big into TV shows, which is fucking great. Like,
but you have like 28 fucking episodes to explore something, and everything is dragged out.
So it's fucking hard to do it in an hour and a half, and like over 3 films.
And you genuinely think you've known people for their entire lifespans, and you know everyone in this particular corner of the world, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and like, I mean, the thing is, I'm a fucking heartless bastard.
Yes.
And to get me to even fucking snivel is...
Oh, I know, get you tearing up in a film? No.
Yeah.
But
so that's what I think for me, anyway, at least, and no doubt an awful lot of other people, it's that whole, hopefully, he'll keep making movies, you know? With it, but what would you consider it a good...
Of course, a good trilogy, yes, of course. Like, I mean, it is... It's these snapshots of these people, like you feel you know them, you feel like they're your mates, do you know what I mean? And it's hard to do that in a film as well. So it's like catching up with old friends whenever you go back to see them. All right, that's good, and slipping back into the old familiar kind of life, if you know what I mean. And it's kind of like going back to your hometown if you've moved away and catching up with people, kind of a thing. That's what it feels like.
Well, I think it's nearly our generation's Brat Pack, but not the you know, like Sammy Davis Jr. and all those kind of guys where people felt like they knew though. Like, I mean, they didn't like me, you know. It was but like with it's like, and as well, I suppose it's the whole thing that they were very... Kevin Smith was smart with it as well, that he kind of... before blogging was really a thing, or vlogging and podcasts were a thing, he was
doing all that. Sure, he was one of the first ones on Twitter, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah, he was. Well, it was the whole thing, even with like movie forums and stuff. Like that was where people were like, "Is this fucking really Kevin Smith?"
Yeah, popping up to have a chat.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and he's just like, because that's what he's into. But like, I mean, Jason Mewes, who was like a big part of his life as well, who we didn't really talk about too much actually at all, because I suppose Clerks isn't really so much about him. Like we could get into his fucking life in another thing, but Kevin Smith really looked after him the whole way through. So, you know,
he starting from the very beginning, sure, you know, after him, he was a bit younger, and you know, sort of looking after this weird kid that was in sort of the local youth club or whatever, where they were all met, and then looked after him throughout his whole life, I suppose, really, because he's you know, he is the J to Kevin's Silent Bob.
He did, one of the main reasons I remember at the time why he said he did the J in Silent Bob Strikes Back, that film was, he was like, he wanted Mewes to get clean. He had like drug problems at the time, and he was like, look, if you can get clean and stay clean, we'll do another fucking movie and it'll be, you know, and he did. And like, I mean, it's nice watching him as well evolve as an actor, you know, kind of going from his fucking kid, to like someone who can genuinely act, and I think is quite a good actor in his own right. But yeah, I suppose I could go on.
He could forever and ever, but there's only so much people can listen to, really.
Yes. Well, but yeah, I suppose this has been a bit of a love letter to Kevin Smith and the Clerks films. The View-esque universe, anyone if you listened to this show and you got into the end and you've never seen, like, you know, kind of go and fucking look at it, But I do think people should also check out Tell 'Em Steve Dave if they haven't. If you're a fan of Kevin Smith or you like the movies, even in a passing way, like I think it's very, very hard to put the two of them in separate kind of thing. You know that they're interconnected, and they will always be, I think, for good or bad.
Yes.
But But yeah, thank you for listening.
Yes. And thank you, Kevin Smith, for Clerks.
Yes, and until next week, goodbye.
Wasn't even supposed to be here.
Oh yes, see you guys. God damn it.